Okay, that's awesome. Okay. Oh, hi. You're listening to Service from Hell, a podcast featuring people that are currently in customer service positions or the lucky few that got out and all of the good, bad, and infinitely irritating things that go along with that work. I'm actor and writer Kate Gaffney, and I'm uniquely qualified to discuss this as I currently work at a very busy and very popular comedy club in Los Angeles. And at least one of you listening right now has probably grabbed me and told me you were ready to order when I was running around like a crazy person. So let's eat. I'd like to welcome our guest, Lucas Hirl. Originally from Des Moines, Iowa, Lucas decided to give up living in the Midwest, obviously, to pursue a career in comedy. As a paid regular at the world-famous Comedy Store, Lucas is an extremely talented comic and one of my favorite people there, producer and writer. You may also recognize his voice from the podcast he co-hosts with Brenton Biddlecombe and Steve Ranazizi, What's the Odds? For Bill Burr's All Things Comedy Network. He's also one of the only comics I've ever heard say that he wants to make the world a better, easier to live in place and wants to give back to a world that has given him so much. Isn't that absolutely lovely? I better know Lucas from passing him in the halls of the comedy club where he performs all the damn time pre-COVID and having him sling me a customer drink or two every so often way in the past. So, Lucas, tell us, hello, it's so good to see you. Why did you leave Iowa? What got you into comedy and out of a family of farmers, etc.? Fill us in.
I left Iowa in fall of 2009 because there was no comedy scene there. And now there's a comedy scene.
Wait, is there really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's like a lot of, like, there's a diverse scene. And there's a comedy club like less than a mile from my parents' place.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. No, and like they have a Funny Bone out there, but it's not, I don't know if they've even been open during this whole COVID thing. But there was like no way to develop out there. So I kind of I knew about the Comedy Store growing up. And I, for some reason, was just drawn to it.
Okay, so let's go way back. So you're living in Des Moines where there is no comedy scene. How could you have the gall to even see yourself as a comic? Like at what point in your timeline of life were you watching a bunch of comedy specials on TV or listening to them and then thinking, I can do that or I want to do that? Or did you have sort of an epiphany where you were like, that's me?
You know, I saw Mitch Hedberg when I was 19. I was my second year in college. And it was like 5 weeks before he died.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I was with my brothers, and I drove, I was at school in Iowa City, and we drove to Des Moines, which is like a couple hours away in the middle of the school year. But, he was, Stephen Lynch at all?
Yeah. Okay,
he was on tour with Stephen Lynch. They're co-headlining, and Stephen Lynch canceled that gig, so the opener got bumped up to feature, and the opener was Al Madrigal. So I remember seeing Al Madrigal, like he was only a few years into comedy. And then like 4 or 5 years later, moved to LA and worked at the Comedy Store, and I meet Al Madrigal, and he's a completely different. Like when I first saw him, he's talking about being a Mexican American from San Fran, and just kind of the stereotypical jokes, kind of the same thing that I do with like farm material now, just because it will get some sort of chuckle amongst almost everybody. And then I saw Al years later, and he really found his own unique voice, and so I just that kind of validated the decision because I loved Mitch Hedberg, and I had a really depressing teenage and college, years. And whenever I was sad, I would always watch Mitch Hedberg's Half Hour. Like he was just not comfortable. He showed you that you didn't have to be comfortable to like be on stage. He just stared at the ground and wore sunglasses. I was kind of drawn to that you don't have to be Jim Carrey. You don't have to be extroverted.
Yeah, that's profound. I wouldn't have thought that would be something that would speak to people, but he's one of the first comics I remember loving as well. And that's so interesting. You're right. He seemed wildly uncomfortable on stage, but it was so authentic. I think people attached to his authenticity. Yeah, he was a brilliant comic. Okay, so you see him when you're 19, and do you remember at the show being like, oh, because he's sort of a brand I can identify with, I want to do the thing he is doing? Or was it just, oh, that was a cool show?
Not at the time, but like years later, yes. Like when I first got out here, it's like, okay, if I had to pinpoint when I really found out I wanted to do what I ended up doing, it was even back then, like, because I always toyed with, if I had a real job, I'd want to go to med school. And that's what brought me to Des Moines. I graduated college about 2 years before that. And I was saving up money for some sort of grad school, but I didn't know what. Because that's just what you're told. I feel like an idiot for getting a 4-year degree.
Same. Same, definitely same.
We have many other friends that are way more successful that dropped out.
Facts. Didn't even finish high school, some of them.
Yeah, no. It was fun though. I'm glad I stayed in Iowa for those 2 years. I got to I helped with the Obama campaign. I got to meet Obama. Got to do a lot of cool things that you only get to do if you're in Iowa.
Sure. Okay, so you're 2 years there saving up, and then at what point in that 2 years did you say, "Oh no, fuck this. Grad school? No, I'm moving to LA."
It was May of 2009. I had my best friend since I was 2 years old. He lived out here. And I went to grade school with him and then high school. And his name's Joe Gillette, just like the shaving company.
That's awesome.
And he moved out here and he had a really good job. Still lives out here. And that's really the difference. If I had a friend in New York, that's where I would have been. I have no interest in being on TV or anything like that per se. I'm not an actor. And that's what really pissed me off about comedy in LA is that so many actors and homeless people do it. That's the hardest fucking part. You got to sift through that garbage.
Oh, it's so real. Do you find that sort of makes the medium a little less, not authentic, but a little less, I guess, talent heavy in LA? Because it's so many people being like, I can do this thing. This is easy.
Yeah, and it's terrible. I mean, it's just a bad heap of shit that keeps compounding itself. There's nothing good that comes out of it.
Yeah.
I I guess you kind of do improv, right?
Yeah.
Okay. When I was home, I did a show and it was my first time on stage in 5 months. And now Iowa has a scene and they have a club and I headlined the club, but I followed an hour and 20 minutes of this improv troupe and I just so wanted to shit on them.
You should have.
I should have. Well, the owner of the club was in the improv troupe. So I just had a bad set in front of my friends and family.
Wait, were you just was that, how do you, I will never understand multi sort of media shows that are we're going to go from improv to stand up to a guitar to a mime. And you're where are people's brains with, that makes me crazy. So did you find you had to come out of the gutter of a terrible improv set before?
Yeah, and have a terrible stand-up set.
Oh, that sucks. Was it partially because it had been 5 months since you had performed, or was it just because you were this?
Oh yeah, my material is crap. And it's also, I've bombed in front of my family a few times, and it's so good. And I listen to all my sets. I don't drive in LA either. That's what I like about living out here is I take Uber everywhere, and I religiously listen to every set 3 times at least. And when I listen to those sets in front of the family, those are especially cringeworthy, but I still do it.
Sure.
But I also was cognizant of not doing anything in front of them twice, even though I did a couple jokes twice.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, my mom is very astute. She has told me before, don't do that farmer's daughter joke anymore. It's overplayed, and so I haven't done the joke since. It was my only.
She's paying attention, so she can give you notes that you are oh, she has the same comedy ear.
Yeah. She was a theater major, and she did at Iowa, and I think it was Iowa. I don't know. She did a lot of plays growing up.
Okay.
And so when I left Iowa, I was the only first in the family to leave. She kind of, I think, really admired that.
Oh, that's neat.
Yeah.
Okay, so you move to LA in 2009. Do you move in with Joe Gillette, or do you find your own? You do.
Yeah.
Okay.
We have a 6-bedroom house. It's a 7-bedroom house, 6 guys. It's Liz Taylor's old house. She lived there for 11 years. It's Hollywood and Wilton, if you know where that's at, Franklin Village. It was it was a 100-year-old house, and it was great. We had parties, and that was. I've always paid rent in LA. That's it. I'm sure you're the same. A lot of my friends, they slept on couches, didn't pay shit, and wish I could do that, but I gotta have a shower. I need certain things. I need a living,
need your own space
arrangement. Yeah.
Well, to be creative, I find that if I'm not getting enough sleep and enough, taking care of myself, I can't, the tank is empty, and the creative tank is massive, how much it requires to be churning out ideas all the time.
Yeah.
Okay, so you move into this house. Are you getting good sleep? Are you deciding to go into are you hitting up the Comedy Store? What's your next step?
I'm going to as many open mics as there were at the time. The Laugh Factory was the first one I hit up, and haven't been back there since.
Are you serious?
Maybe a couple times, but not much. No, I thought that place was so cool, and then I just kind of became smarter. But I was hanging out at the store mostly. You know, the store was kind of just like this weird dark place that nobody went to. And I'm like, you know, I heard Robin Williams, you know, started here and Jim Carrey and all these people. And now it's like a ghost town. And it was very depressing. Even the door guys, the door people, like Hinchcliffe was a door guy, Matt Edgar, Benji, and a couple of them were very kind of downers. And just, you know, I credit our class. You know, I started hanging out there, and it was about September of 2009. September 1st was my first day in LA.
Wow.
And I started hanging out there right away, every night until 2 a.m.
Whoa.
And I got hired in February, and I got my first shift in March of 2010. Yeah, and I worked there like exactly 10 years, because then COVID hit.
But you start hanging out there, and was that during the dark days of the store that they reference when Rogan was gone and there was sort of, they couldn't sell out and they were having a hard time. They weren't even open 7 days a week.
Yeah.
It's so weird because there's that period of time feels so insanely not real to me. Because I first met the store in, I think, 2016, and I started working there in 2018, and it was like, I mean, going off all the time. And so when people talk about, oh no, you had to work all 3 rooms to even scrape together 2 nickels, and I'm like, what? Like, we're selling out the main room twice a night, 7 nights a week, or 6 nights a week. That's insane to me. So it'll be interesting to see sort of post-COVID what happens. Okay, so you start working there, and then at what point what was your process to getting passed to become a paid regular? Because it's extremely, extremely rare and super, super, super hard, especially because did you start in the door person program, or did you get hired as a...
Yeah.
You did?
Oh, no. Yeah, they wouldn't hire bartenders to be comedians.
Okay, so how did you get picked? What was your sort of process of becoming a paid regular?
I'm sure you've heard about Tommy Morris, the old talent coordinator. Yeah, entertaining guy, and I owe a lot to him. He brought me in, and I was not worthy of being a door guy. Like, you know, me and Matt Edgar, I think he hired without had ever seen us. And so he kind of asked me, like, he gave me a bellroom spot. I don't know if that was a tryout or some sort of audition like that place does. But he asked me if I could drive stick shift because the lot guy had just gotten fired. And he said, it doesn't matter if you can, just lie and say you can. And I did. And I taught myself to drive stick shifts, but I worked in the lot for a year. And then the next summer, a bunch of bartenders went on vacation at the same time. And it was just a looser run atmosphere.
Sure.
Then now, you know, like the greatest thing to ever have in the Comedy Store is Eric Anderson. Like, he came in, and I've never seen a guy be able to change a culture like he did, but he did it.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Forever respect for that man.
Like, he whipped it into shape in a situation where everything was kind of chaos?
Yeah, because the GM before, Dean, like, I was a comedian. I should have been bartending. And I was working the front bar within like a year. And I remember, you know, Tony was getting out of being a door guy, and he's like, saw me behind the bar, and he's like, you should not be back there. Like, I was not an alcoholic, but I was 24, 25, and I partied.
Sure.
And free alcohol and a great new job. And especially then, the business was half of what it, you know, is now. And it's the funnest job we'll ever have. I view the Comedy Store. I mean, do you ever think of it like that? Like,
yeah, it's the Wild Wild West, and it's the craziest, like, no rules. I have said some shit that, like, anywhere else would have put me on some sort of list where I would have never been hireable in LA before, ever again. So yeah, I mean, it has aspects. It is the most stressful serving job, bartending job, anything I've ever had in my life, just because of the volume and the pace. Yes, it's insane. But I also I don't like being like, what do you want? What do you want? What do you want? What do you want? Because even when I bartended, I haven't bartended at places where it was like a club scene. So you could, you know, kind of take your time with people.
Yeah.
It is tough for me to be like, yeah, I don't have time. Shut up. What do you want? Blah, 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 blah. Like, that's a little hard.
Yeah. I mean, I started bartending in Des Moines. So
was it like that or was it kind of more sort of...
No, it was a Marriott. It was a Renaissance hotel. Oh. So it was like 4 or 5. It wasn't quite 5 stars. I think it was 4, or trying to be 4. So like they really, you know, there's a way to speak.
Sure.
Definitely couldn't say the stuff you do at the store.
Oh my gosh, no way.
And it was, no, it was great. It was a job. I remember, like, during the caucuses, which you're into politics, you know that. In 08, like, John Edwards lived at the hotel.
Oh, that would have been cool.
Yeah.
Just to, like, have those interactions.
Well, I used to always see that woman he had the affair with, just, like, going through the lobby around midnight. Oh, yeah.
Are you serious?
Oh, yeah. When that came out, I was like, oh, okay. I knew something was up. I took room service up to him. He had that Southern politician smile I just don't trust.
Oh, I cannot wait to get into your customer service like series of jobs. I cannot wait. Okay, so real quick. Okay, so you are working through the store. So Tommy, you eventually start bartending. He tries you out, gives you the belly room. You perform. Things are fine. What was your transition, or how did you find out that you got passed?
So I got past 7 years of being a door guy. There was a big showcase. I don't know. Were you there that night? It was a Monday.
I don't even think.
And Adam had.
I wasn't there yet. I don't think, because I didn't start there till 2018.
Okay.
When did you get passed in?
It was August 2017.
I wasn't there yet.
Okay. So it was right before you must have.
Yep.
Because it was any door guy or girl that'd been there for at least 2 years. And it was like 3 hours. No, it wasn't 3 hours. It was probably 2 hours, 15 minutes, I would say, of straight showcase. And I went up last.
Oh, they did you a solid. They did that for Punky too when she got passed.
Yeah.
Joe put her, Fifi now, put her at the last sort of slot. So that somebody wanted you to succeed.
Yeah, it was Skakel hosting.
What up, Earl? I love him so much.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay.
No, he's special. And I went up and I prepped so hard for this freaking 5 minutes. Like I'd been just obsessed with this for the last month. And 3 jokes in, I put the punchline in the intro. And you know that feeling when you're in the middle of your words and you know that, there's like 100.
You shat the bed.
Yeah. And I said, and I guess my move in the moment was to say the joke anyway.
Good joke.
And I just straight up said, I fucked up. And it worked, and I had him since then. Because I really believe this, Kate, that like when it comes to training or when it comes to over preparing for anything, you want to get it so ingrained in your head that when that moment does happen, where you fuck up, you have the resources to deal with that situation. Because had I not like rehearsed that set so much, that moment I wouldn't have, I guess, been as genuine also.
Sure.
It was a really genuine, like I screwed up. They knew it. I called it out and everything was fine. And then since then I knew everything, like the rest of the set will be okay. Adam called me the next day. I'll never forget. It was like maybe like 11:15 a.m. And he started the conversation kind of saying like he did good, but I want to see and then he ended it by saying you're passed. And I was like, wow. I was in tears. And Josh got passed too, which if he would have gotten passed and I didn't,
ooh,
I would have quit.
Would you really have?
No, but I would have I would have wanted to leave. He would have been unbearable.
Sure. Yeah.
Because I bartend with him, or did.
So Lucas, the detail he's leaving out is Josh is one of his closest friends at the store. And I really like Josh. Josh works.
Not at all. Yeah.
Josh works his ass off. I do actually like him, but he is pretty insufferable. Like, he's a nice guy. And I will say, is genuinely very funny. I laugh at his shit. But when he thinks you are wrong, because he's a rules person, when he thinks you are wrong behind the bar, good luck ever getting a drink again from him. He will sit on your tickets. He is he's got some stuff to work through and some resentment.
He's petty.
He is king petty. And there's too many of us working at the store that are also petty. So the crash of all of these petty personalities means everybody's on one all the time. But go ahead. So had he passed, you're like, it would have been awful, but you both passed at the same time. So were you over the moon? Were you like, oh, it's off to the races now?
Oh, yeah. That Tuesday was like one of the best days of my life. I got Chipotle with Dean Del Rey.
Aww.
And I went to bartend that night, to do my usual Tuesday night shift. Busiest night of the club. Josh comes in at, like 6:30, like he always does. He's got nowhere to go. He's got no home.
Facts. That's actually true. Lucas is not making that up. He was living in his car.
Yeah.
Good.
He's one of those employees that just hangs out there when he's not working.
Yep.
And it's like, I don't get it.
I don't either.
And that night, Tuesdays always have the greatest lineups. And Rogan came in and we were doing shots. I'll never forget this. We were doing shots. And we were we were decently busy. It wasn't any more busy than we are at any other point between 8:30 and 11:30. You know what I mean? Like, we aren't overwhelmed.
Yeah.
But Rogan wanted to make a big deal about, hey, you both just got passed. Let's do a round of shots. So we did. I'll never forget. Do you remember the server, Megan?
I didn't work there when she did, but I've heard plenty of stories.
Okay, let's not shit on her too much. But she's like, excuse me, can you make my tickets? And I think I might have hopefully taken an extra second longer just not to make them. Just because at the time I kind of felt guilty. Like, okay, she is trying to work. But then immediately it's like, well, we just got past and, Rogan's wanting to celebrate with us. No matter how busy we are, as a server too. Same thing with, whatever craziness happened, we adapted the store. And that was, I don't know, I'll never forget that of her interrupting that special moment.
Jesus. Well, and also Rogan keeps the lights on in that place. So even when I am when I'm slammed and he happens to be at the well where I'm waiting for all of my tickets, I know his drinks are getting made first because he tips his ass off. He's lovely to everyone. And he'll always, sort of acknowledge he knows he's bumping ahead of us. But it's he keeps the lights on in that place. So if my tables are waiting 30 seconds longer and that means they don't tip me as well, which I get stiff there all the time, so I don't care. In my head, I'm like, but this person is of more value to my long-term financial sort of situation. He's also a value apart from my money, but he's a value. And so I'm like, well, am I going to, the customer that doesn't understand that an extra 30 seconds isn't going to ruin their night? Do I care more about that customer? Or do I care about keeping this comic happy who brings me thousands of dollars over the long term because he sells out the rooms? It's like, no, he can go ahead and bump ahead whenever he wants to. There was one time, just to throw a Rogan story in here, this is about that. There was one time he found me, I was working the green room and he didn't order anything that night, but I think 2 comics ordered from me. And then I was hanging out and then I was like, all right, I'm going to leave because I was only working the green room. And as I didn't expect a tip at all. And he ran after me and found me, gives me this huge hug. He's like, don't leave, Kate, don't leave before you get your money. And I was like, you didn't order any drinks for me. And he hands me $100 bill. And he was like, you worked the room. And I was just like, that's the side of Rogan I feel like people that talk a lot of shit about him don't see. So anyway, that's not about that. We're talking about you though.
No, I gotta imagine that's how working the comedy, the green room is.
Yeah.
Half of them don't tip, but the other half more than tip.
Correct. That's 100% accurate. Okay, so that night, so you celebrate, and then so you get us to today. So do you start performing there regularly, or sort of what is the shift once you're a paid regular? Is it like gates open, now you just perform whenever you want, or how does it work?
Yeah, it's you get at least this, where I'm at. It's like 1 spot a week because I've been there through thick and thin.
Sure.
It's my home club. It's every comedian needs that spot where they can feel free to go up and try anything. Mm-hmm. Any. I guess I need to explore that even more. But you feel safe there, and so I get 1 spot a week. Plus, the benefit of bartending or working there is that on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, they don't have a closer. So if you're working, you get that first fallout spot. And so Tuesdays, I would just go up every for the last 2.5 years, going up first in the last spot of every Tuesday. And I remember I just exhausted from working that, 6 sold out rooms. Ugh. And just the busiest, and half the time I'd have wet pants on stage because the bartender's well leaks, so that right pant leg would just be soaked, and there's no worse feeling than being wet. And I'd go on stage with a wet pant leg and try 8 minutes of new jokes, and I learned to bring new pants, new socks, and new shoes. Because that night was it's the busiest night of all.
Yeah.
And the other crazy thing about Tuesdays, that was my first bartending shift. I was a fill-in for 5-6 months, and then the guy that worked Tuesdays, he wasn't a comedian, he wasn't Thai, he was just a white dude named Andrew, great guy. But it wasn't a comedian, had no, it was just it was like a bar then, it wasn't the comedy mecca that the resurgence made it. But he left and Tuesday was open and they wanted 2 people to do it. And Toby picked me to work with him. And it was the deadest night of the week. We'd make $70, which is on an average night, you'd make $70-$80. And then it became crazy Tuesday within, I break it into when Rogan wasn't coming to the store, and then 2014 he started coming again.
It's crazy the pull that one person can have. I mean, that's just, it's sort of, it's kind of frightening actually that one person has that much power.
Yeah, I mean, I also I really credit Joey Diaz. He was the first. He showed up a Wednesday, and then Rogan showed up the following Tuesday for the first time in years. But Joey was kind of the first one to come, and I think that showed Joe, okay, the store is a different place than I thought it was. It's cool again. Because I remember, I've never seen comedians huddle in the back of the OR watching Joey. I've never seen them do that for anybody else. He was really one of a kind. That guy is so special.
Oh, I love him endlessly. Yeah. Okay. So, well, that gets us up to today. Even now, everything's shut down with COVID. So you're staying in LA pumping out stuff, which we will talk about later. But we hope you enjoyed your apps. We're going to go to the entrees after a quick break. We're back. And now it is time for the entrees. Okay, so this is the super speed round of questions that is all about customer service because, yes, folks, he has worked in customer service. Okay, so what was your first job ever?
Paper route.
Okay.
9 years old.
You were 9?
Yeah.
How much would you make and how many houses would you have to do?
It was it took about an hour. It was 6 days a week. Sundays you got off.
Ooh.
It's called the Oskaloosa Herald. But the pain in the ass is, I think I got paid about $60 a month, but you had to collect.
Oh my.
Which I'm sure you know what that is, right?
Yes, that's so annoying.
Yeah. I'm sure they don't do that anymore. Like now when you pay for the paper, you have to pay right away and you do it with a credit card. But back in the day, they used to make a 9-year-old come to your house and ask you for money. I remember there were a couple people that you knock on the door and you knew they were home. You could hear appliances on. You see people behind windows and shutting blinds.
Oh my God.
And it's you're hiding from a 9-year-old.
Whose paper you've already read, you selfish jerks. That's crazy. Okay,
So that comes out of your pay.
Wait, would you take your bike or would someone drive you around or how would you deliver the papers?
I walked. It was right in my neighborhood.
Okay.
And, the pain is whenever I would want to leave or go anywhere, you had to have a substitute, and the substitute would always screw up, and you'd hear about it. It's not worth it for $60.
No.
Kids were getting hosed in the 90s.
Yeah, and getting hosed. And also, Iowa winters are no joke. I mean, you're delivering papers
Right.
360, well, minus the Sundays or whatever, 300 some odd days a year. That sucks.
Right. Yeah.
At 9, that's crazy. Okay, how many customer service jobs have you had total? And I'm counting that one. So that's number 1. So delivering papers is 1.
Okay.
Take your time.
Probably about 4 or 5. I mean, I've had most of my jobs for a long time. My job as a teenager, I was a busboy at the same hotel, the Marriott, the Savory, that I became a bartender at. I started when I was 16. And I left when I was 23 or 24. Just because I would work there, coming back from summers in college. It was a great job. They loved me. So really, I view my biggest jobs as that. As a busboy and then later a bartender at a Marriott and then the Comedy Store. I had that job for 7 years and I've had the store for 10.
Okay, well, that makes sense. So paper route, busboy, bartender, and then the store. So really 4.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's...
I worked for 8 years. I worked in video games in Hollywood or in LA here. I was a voiceover director and coordinator for video for big RPGs and stuff.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I used to get brought to the stage as a director on Elder Scrolls, Skyrim, and Halo. And the crowd doesn't give a shit.
Wait, yeah, no. Hi, Mike Smith and Don Smith. I know you're listening because you guys are good friends. They absolutely are going to geek out on that. So that's actually 5 because I think directing is a version of customer service, even though it's sort of, we don't view it that way because you're not interacting with people in the same way. I still think that that's a version of, you got to placate, you got to whatever. So I do think that there's some of that. What got you? Are you doing that now or is that done?
No, I stopped about 2 years ago.
Why did you stop?
It's contract work. It was great, but it was the title's amazing. The pay was not as good as bartending at the Comedy Store.
That's crazy.
As crazy as that way more responsibilities, way more shit to do. Not worth it.
Yeah.
I kind of realized I've been saving money for 8 years. I'm tired of working. Yeah, I don't want to kill myself.
Were you doing that? You had to have been doing that simultaneously with the store, right?
Yeah, I was a bar back on Fridays. I remember I was working on... Have you ever heard... There's a game called Skyrim. It came out in 2011, but that summer I was working on that every day from 8 to 6. And then bar backing on the weekends, and it really killed me.
Yeah, I was gonna say you're not sleeping. I can't.
Yeah.
I couldn't. That wouldn't have worked for me. How were you coming up with the energy to do either?
Not well. Yeah.
You have to be a caffeine person.
Oh yeah, I drink a couple cups of coffee a day. But I wasn't handling either of them really well. There were a couple years at the store where like I kind of view the store as like college, where I stayed a little too long. And like there are a couple years where I don't feel like I was really growing. Like I was going up on stage and bombing consistently, but if that's growing. But like I wasn't I wasn't trying to like really think about who I am and what I want to say. It's more like, oh, these stupid jokes work. They aren't me at all, but
But it doesn't matter. I'm getting up because I've had 2 hours of sleep in the last 2 weeks. So this will do.
Yeah.
Jeez.
And also if you work at the comedy store as a comedian and you feel like entitled to a spot kind of. Like
Sure.
There was a different generation of door people before Adam got there where you had to really, the talent coordinator didn't guarantee that you got a spot on Mondays. Jeez. And you had to like kind of be an annoying asshole. Some people did to the host where, like it was a real shit show. Adam really kind of got that thing organized where, okay, door people get up first because you work here. But when I was a door guy, there, probably 60% of the door people got up. If you were there less than 2 years, there's a good chance you didn't.
Well, Rick Ingram talks about that a lot. He said that now with all of the, like his experience with a lot of the door people in the last few years, he's like, how do they get away with this attitude? And like, how do they get away with talking to people this way? We didn't get up on stage hardly ever. He said, I had to claw my way into spots. He was like, and I was cleaning toilets at the time. And now you guys have a cleaning crew and also a guarantee. He was like, this is bullshit. He's talked about it a lot.
Yeah, and you see it in the development, like the laziness, I guess,
and the terrible attitude.
Definitely, yeah, it shows itself.
Yeah, I don't miss dealing with that personality piece. Okay, all right. So, which was your favorite job of all 5 of those customer service jobs?
Got to be the Comedy Store.
Okay, a lot of people say that. Okay, Punky said the same thing. Yeah. Okay, why?
There's no place like it.
It's true.
Like if all you got to be is genuine.
That's fair. That's actually totally fair. Yes. Which makes it crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the things that have been said to me by fellow employees and the things that have happened to me there. I'm like, am I tolerating abuse? What is happening? And then I become abusive towards someone and I was like, oh, right. Okay, so we all have to tolerate some abuse because I think I'm a nice person and then I've said some horrible shit to people. So I walk that line. I've seen
a couple people. There was one waitress when I started bartending. Her name started with a G, but she was a good soul and had a lot of acting credits. Like she was here for the right reasons. Like she was a lot of people get employed by the store and they make more money than they thought they would, and that's their new thing. And they really don't. They like a lot of people. Their career is second fiddle. Mm-hmm. But she was like really on the career and had a lot of acting credits. Was on like had a recurring role in Desperate Housewives, I think.
Wow.
But she was too sensitive for the Comedy Store.
Oh, really?
Like and some of the banter that happened at that back bar. Like I'm not one to police myself, but I'm like, if you can't handle this, you're gonna. And she ended up quitting, but she worked there. She worked there for a few years. Like, she really gave it a thought before she's like, oh, I can't. This isn't me.
You do have to, I mean, I would agree that there's a piece of you that it's not even just thick skin. It's like you have to sort of compartmentalize people away from their comedy, and you also have to tolerate some behavior and I don't mean I'm not saying the sexual stuff at all. I mean more that someone might like run into you with a tray, or someone might tell you to fuck off and they mean it. And you have to kind of just be like, either I roll with these punches, understanding that everyone is under an enormous amount of stress, or I have to quit, because it started to chip away at my soul when I was really like taking it personally and saying like, why is everyone so mean here? Like, I don't understand. Can't we just all be like friends? And then it was like, oh no, this job is too hard. You actually like, there's no time to hold hands with everyone and tell them they're great. And you have to take the stress and frustration of working in that environment with that many customers, arguing with you about the drinks and arguing with you about various things, or standing up in the middle of a show or recording or whatever. You have to take it somewhere, because otherwise you're going to drive off a cliff. So, and it often gets taken to the back bar or to the service well.
Yeah, that's what I don't miss is I'd come in with a fine attitude, but you get enough. It just takes one. Mm-hmm. And there's going to be, you're at the Comedy Store. There's going to be shitheads every night.
Yes.
You're dealing with so many people.
Yes.
and so many times it gets brought back to the back. And like when this pandemic first hit, oh my God, I was in heaven. I was like, and I'm still kind of in heaven. I still kind of love it. Like I go to the store once a week just to see, like I like to see Eric and Curtis, and it's like this nice consistency there.
Sure.
But there's also a couple people that we talked about before, this podcast that like are there every night, and it's like, holy shit, that's the darkness I don't miss at all, because you saw those people that are there 5 or 6 nights till 3 a.m.
Oof. They get there at like 8, they stay till 3, and you're like, okay, so what's your least favorite of those 5 jobs? I
had a job for a week. It was at a raceway in the Midwest, like a stock car,
Yeah.
It was in Knoxville, Iowa, and I was carried around me like a bunch of sodas that I had to trek up and down the steps at this raceway in the fan stands. And you kept walking, you kept doing hikes and kept going up steps until you sold out of whatever you were selling. And you got paid cash at the end of the night, but it was hell. And you were getting hit by chunks of dirt, and your hearing was it was so loud. All the fans had
earmuffs, yeah, or whatever those, yeah. Well, it's interesting. Yeah. I feel sorry for the same people that work at like the baseball stadiums or the any sporting or NASCAR or any raceway, anything at all, because those stairs. I mean, especially the people that are carrying the slushies. I'm like, it's not just the slushie that weighs something. It's all the ice that is currently melting all over their body, becoming water that is so fucking heavy.
That's got to feel great.
Oh, well, it probably does feel good. But then I would just start chucking it on my body. I wouldn't have lasted. You lasted a week? I don't think I would have lasted a week.
Well, it was only like a week of the year. So it wasn't like I quit the job. It just kind of ran up. But I remember dreading every fucking night of that job because I knew I was going to get hit by chunks of dirt.
Oof.
And the fans were such just low lives, just like you can imagine. I mean, they're going to a small Iowa town sprint car, raceway on a Wednesday.
That's a real specific
Fuck
crew.
Your life.
Yeah, that's
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the same people that would do what would we do at the fair? We would always go to those I don't know why I can't think of monster truck rallies where they would it would just be fucking loud. And we thought it was so cool. And looking back now, I'm like, what at a fair, with 100 other people. And you're like, we are the fucking coolest. And it's like, no, we're not. This is weird.
Do you find that though? Because I think you and I grew up in a similar city. How many people were in the town you grew up in? How many people total?
As of right now, it's 6,000.
Okay, mine was 10,000. I lived in a town called Oskaloosa until I was 15. But the nearest town was our hated town was Pella.
Okay.
Pella's this Dutch town that has about 10,000 people.
That's awesome.
And their big celebrities are Kyle Korver, who plays in the NBA, and then the guitarist from the Killers.
That's awesome. That's actually really cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah, but they were and then Ottumwa, which Tom Arnold's from.
Oh, okay.
So when I moved to LA, I met Tom Arnold right away.
I love that.
Yeah, and he took a liking to me, and I met him at the Comedy Store, and I got hired the same night.
Oh, what a great night.
Not that those are related, but yeah.
Oh, that's kismet. Okay, so you have, so that's 6. So we said 5, so now you've actually had 6 customer service jobs. Okay, so, and what did we say, what did you say the least favorite was that, right? Was the
Oh yeah, the stock car, the vendor boy.
So hard. Okay, what's the weirdest thing you've been asked to do whilst on the clock? You don't have to censor this. We've gotten some weird answers.
Oh boy.
Yeah. His eyes got real wide.
It had to have been doing some sort of room service, or it had to have been the hotel job, because people call room service and they kind of expect anything.
Do you have an example that you're comfortable sharing of one of the anythings you were asked?
Let me think. Do you remember Vivian Stringer? Okay, she was and this isn't even a good story, but she was the basketball coach of it was the team that Don Imus got in trouble for calling names in 07. Do you remember the Rutgers?
Oh, for Rutgers, okay.
Rutgers women's basketball coach. She answered the door in a robe, which is weird. She was kind of a celebrity, and she was in town for a speaking engagement. So that was always weird how people would answer. People answer room service orders and whatever get up they have very little respect for the person that's bringing it in. So you see how that they don't even bother to clean up their fucking space. Like, you see how people actually live. So I guess that was, out of all my customer service jobs, that's the one where I think I learned the most about people, was delivering room service.
Oh, tell me more.
Orders.
Why do you say that?
I mean, for the same, you get to go in their room, and I do it too. Like, if I'm in a hotel room and the maid, like, I kind of clean up for the maid, but I'm not trying to impress, this freaking 23-year-old acne-faced room service person coming in.
So you don't care. Wait, were you asked to bring up anything that you were like, this is an escort, or this is, we're doing some things in this room that I don't want to know about?
The weirdest request in all customer. Well, I don't know. I guess this might be a fun request, is work in the Comedy Store. I was talking to Eric about this the other night. Like, Ron White, I always made sure he got a ride home. Because he would always ask me, like, if he was drinking too much, he'd be like, hey, you give me a ride home?
Yeah, that love him, but he drinks and says things.
And I mean, he makes his own tequila, so.
Which is actually good, but also.
Yeah, but he'd always ask me, be like, hey, you give me a ride home? Like, whenever he knew he had too much. And I would a couple times, but I kind of, realized I couldn't be up till 5 a.m., so I gave the job to Nick Kekaris. And I asked Nick, the next day, like, hey, how was partying with Ron White? He's like, it was amazing. He made tacos. Like, I, at least when I would give Ron White rides home, we'd go to his house and we'd smoke some pot and we'd talk and but we wouldn't really drink. I regretfully gave the job to my coworker Nick, who does party and can match Ron.
Oh yeah, he can.
And probably wasn't a good combo. So
nope. I'm surprised they both got out of that alive, to be honest. Jesus. But I want to go back to one thing you said before, when you said you learn the most about people from delivering room service. What's the number one thing you learned about people in that? And we're going to get into the nice stuff in dessert, but I'm just curious, is there something that you specifically, you can look back now and say, oh, I learned this specific thing from just that job?
I would say that people are slobs.
Hello.
I knew that bussing tables, but I really also understood that people treat rentals things like very disposable.
Yes.
They're not going to this hotel. They're not probably ever going to be here again.
Well, I had a good girlfriend in college buy a rental car as her regular car because it was on sale. I forget where. And we all said to her, we're like, that car is going to have issues. People drive those cars like crazy. And all of her girlfriends, all of us were like, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. And she's like, no, it's fine. Because it was really cheap and we were all so poor. And she bought it and it was like, that car was in the shop a lot because people drive rental cars the way they treat hotel rooms. And it's like, yeah, they don't care about the engine. They don't need to, who cares? Anyway, okay.
Yeah. I also realized that, because it was an old hotel, so it really banked on that reputation. And since then, when I make reservations or go out of town or whatever, I don't really give a shit about how historic it is, because that is such a selling point to like my mom and
sure.
kind of like that demographic. But it wasn't a fan. Like it was way overpriced. To upkeep like a hotel room and make profit. I think I remember hearing, and I'm sure it's gone up a bit since, but like $20 a night you just have to make, to pay for. And I'm sure it's probably like 40 or 50, but you know what I mean? Like
sure.
If you're paying $200 a night for a hotel room that really just needs 50 to break profit.
That's crazy.
You're a sucker.
That's crazy. Yeah. That makes me so angry. I'm thinking of all the hotels I've paid ridiculous money for. That makes me sick in my stomach. Okay. What is an incident that made someone ask to speak with your manager whilst you were working in some sort of customer service job? Can you think of one?
Oh boy. I don't know if I can.
It's okay.
I don't think I have. I took a room service up to a guy that was really creepy and kind and had that smile, like that frozen smile, like,
oof.
And
didn't
blink.
Ooh.
Really appreciative and tipped well. And then I remember came down and said like my milk was like warm or something and it was ineditable or something, and like threw it on the ground. I remember that hitting kind of hard and like, oh, there's real psychos out there.
I just got chills when you were telling that story. No lie. That feels like a psychotic sort of choice.
You know those people that give you a real like warm greeting?
Yes.
And then like you see them an hour or two later and they do a 180.
Yep.
And I remember like the lady working the front desk, Carla, saw it and she's like, oh, that guy, he like we've had problems with him for the last 2 days since he's checked in, and like, oh, and okay, it isn't me, but I was at a young enough age where like that shit stays with you for multiple days.
It does, and you just described it in such a specific way. It's like, no, that stayed with you for multiple years. That's something penetrates your brain, and you're like, that's parked. I bet he went on to murder a lot of people. Okay, what was the
hopefully?
Such an asshole. What was the last straw that got you out of the job right before the Comedy Store was the hotel, right?
Yeah.
So what was the last straw that got you out of that job?
Comedy.
You were just like, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah. It's just like, I'd get to meet like the biggest celebrity to come to Des Moines every 3 months. Like that's not cool enough to stay here. Like that was the perk of like bartending at a downtown Des Moines hotel, is whoever was in town to speak to at a convention or like lobby for a caucus politician
was there.
Yeah, was there.
That's so funny. Okay. Have you ever told a customer to fuck off?
Oh yeah. Yeah. It would have been either bartending the VIP bar or the front. For sure, because you get those people that like feel entitled to hang out and that you're lonely and that, they just see you like not doing anything and they think you're alone and they like talk to you and they like camp there and think that they're doing you a favor. It's like, go. Like even there's this guy named Kevin that used to come to the store and hand out $100 bills to people.
Whoa.
And he would hang out at the front and he'd like give Toby $100 and then he would talk to him. And if he would talk to him for like longer than like 30 minutes, Toby'd say, give me another 100.
Are you kidding me? But Toby's so mean. God damn it, Toby.
But those rich people that come to the Comedy Store and they try to appear like something. And it's you do think of like, okay, is it worth whatever amount of money I can make out of this? Is it worth listening to this guy's bullshit for 20 minutes? Because a lot of the biggest tippers at the store, at least bartending, are also the ones that will hang out and talk your ear off.
Yeah, they want your time. Well, and I mean, listen, I understand I bartended for a while at a bar where it was the lonely bar and people would post and I would talk to them for hours and I'd have to just like, whatever, because that was the sort of song and dance of that particular bar. But it was the song and dance of that particular bar. And I knew that. The Comedy Store, it's far too fast, it's too high volume, and it becomes, even if this person is lonely, which is genuinely sad, like I don't want people to be hurting and think the only place they can go for friendships is the Comedy Store. Jesus. But you also, it becomes an issue of you're hindering me from doing my job. And I will say, for people that haven't been to the Comedy Store, there's a VIP bar, which is in the deep, deep, deep back, that is allegedly only for the comics and their guests. But people can sneak back there because of the sort of area that it is, and everything is so fast that if you just act like you've been there before, nobody's going to stop you because nobody knows who anybody's fucking in the current moment. So it's like, oh, that girl could be somebody else's girlfriend or whatever. And I remember one time you were working the VIP bar and you came and you were getting ice or something. You were just like, I'm coming out of there. And you were taking forever to put, like, you were like putting like a single cube into the like ice bucket. And I was like, Lucas, what are you doing? And you were like, people are really annoying back there and then keep talking to me. It's like, I go, okay. I was like, well, who is it in particular? And you were like, I don't know. And I don't think they're guests of anyone, but I don't have the energy to kick them out. And then you took your ice bucket and went back there. And I was like, oh, that part of the VIP bar would suck. The being trapped and not knowing who you can kick out or who you can't. That would get old.
That was my customer service move back there. If there was somebody I didn't know if they belonged there. Because, you feel weird. Like, I'm a paid regular. I feel a special entitlement to that bar. Also, as an employee, like, okay, that's for us. Mm-hmm. But like you said, there's so many instances like, oh, that's Jeff Ross's girlfriend or that's whoever. So my move would always be, if I wasn't sure, I would just go and not be in the bar and hang out right outside of it. And eventually, if you should get the hint and leave. Like if there's not a bartender back there, if you're just in a stale air room with but really honestly most of them didn't take the hint, so I would have to go back in there and
so annoying.
yeah. But I do like that freedom that the store has, that like if I just didn't like a customer in that back bar, I would just leave them and hopefully they take the hint and leave. Then you could also go to that sacred ground and like look through the window and see if they're still in there. You can spy on them.
So true.
Yeah, I don't miss the annoying customers.
Oof, I don't either.
I don't miss the VIP bar is so great some nights, and then other nights, oh my God,
kill me. Yeah, no thanks.
Yeah.
How many bodily fluids have been on you whilst you were working? Has anyone's bodily anything been on you?
Hopefully just a couple. I mean,
okay.
that I know of. Yeah, nothing crazy.
Have you been barfed on?
No.
You're lucky. Do you tip?
Do I tip?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
How much?
I mean, I'm not 20 to 25%.
That's
nothing like.
That's very generous.
Yeah.
Basically, everyone I've ever asked says somewhere between the range of 20 and 30%, because all of us.
Yeah.
Get
if they
it.
say anything above 30, they're lying, or they're trying to sound
100%.
better than they are.
Yeah. Okay. Do you ever not tip?
I mean, not really. I guess some things like anybody. Like I don't always. Well, no. I probably tip half the time at like a coffee shop I go to. I would say maybe.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like.
Yeah, I'm not consistent with the coffee either. Do you tip with Uber and Lyft? Because you take it every day now. You said.
Yes.
You do.
Yes.
Every trip.
Yeah.
Wow,
at least a couple
generous.
bucks.
That's generous.
Unless they talk to me.
So your
If they
brand.
talk to me, it's
That
just
is
it's
so your
downhill.
brand. Okay. Have you ever been stiffed?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Does it happen in the VIP bar more or at the service well more?
Oh boy. That's a great question. Doesn't happen much at either, because you kind of, they're all comedians, so you don't, like you're not going to stiff anybody you know.
I've seen some of them stiff y'all.
No, that's true too. That's the fun part about being a comedian and a bartender, is I know the ones that don't tip.
Yeah.
And there's a couple like famous, big money making, and everybody. And you know what? That's, I guess, the biggest. A couple of the huge things I learned from the store is everybody who works in comedy talks, and they also work in comedy in some facet, probably for the rest of their lives.
Yep. Whether they get off stage or remain on stage or become producers or, comedy is very tiny.
Yep. And word gets around. People
Sure
gossip
does.
like motherfuckers.
Yeah, they do. They don't have a lot else going on. It's so true. Have you ever been fired from a customer service job?
No.
No, I don't. You're not a fireable. You work really, really fucking hard. Okay. Who's the worst customer you've ever had to interact with?
I remember not being impressed with Al Sharpton.
Really?
I remember he came in and I'm like, yeah, this was his fat phase, and he was. I remember
He was unhappy.
He was looking at her breakfast buffet, and I don't know if his mind was on something else. The worst customer I ever had, Jesus.
Or just even an example of one that talked to you rudely or spoke to you outside of your name or called you something, and you were like, wow, this is unacceptable. Or somebody you chose not to serve because they were being so terrible to you, or just being terrible in general.
I
will interject while you're thinking. There was a time when a couple comics who were not, they may be paid regulars, I don't really know. They come to the store a fair amount, but they always bring people and they never tip. And we were slammed. And it was like I forget what, it was a Friday or Saturday night. And Lucas was at one of the wells, and he had a mountain of tickets that he had to get to. One of these comics kept being like, hey, 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 hey. And Lucas straight up didn't even turn, was just working on the mountain of tickets. And then finally was like, I have to get to all of this. And then you just went right back to work, and you weren't rude. You were just making it very clear. And I was like, that has to be the most annoying, especially because he doesn't tip. And he wanted, it was clear it was like a round of shots for a group of people. It wasn't just, can I get a water?
Yeah, no, there's nothing I love more than that. When entitled people come during a busy time and you have a legit excuse not to pay attention to them. Yeah, I like to give them just enough attention to know that, like, I know that they're there, but I also don't care to hear their problem. I don't know if this is gonna sound like, it's so hard to think of like the worst customer, but I remember as a bus boy, one of the first like big conventions Iowa had was like for the National Department of the Blind.
Oh.
So our restaurant was full of blind people. And I remember like to get attention, they would like clap. And it was, I mean, and you can't like get too mad. But also, one of my jobs was to vacuum at the end of the night, and they all had dogs, and all the dogs ate the crumbs from the eggs and shit.
Oh my God.
So like
So you didn't
that
have
was
to vacuum
that was
anything.
a bonus.
Yeah, that's
you didn't have
great.
to vacuum.
Oh, what an
But yeah, that was like one of the worst, and that was one of my first like customer service experiences, and like a job that I would have for a long time was within a few months was like we were slammed on a Saturday, just full of people at this blind convention, and it's like, oh, it's always going to be easier than this.
I am not laughing at people with disabilities or people that have the disadvantage of being blind. I can't imagine walking through life like that. All I can just envision is a scenario of getting your ass handed to you by a bunch of people clapping. Like I can't it and simultaneous clapping at various tables. I am not laughing at blind people, but that visual, someone needs to put that in a screenplay.
Oh, they were clapping, asking, "Where's my food?" And we got 3 people, and that's
because they also probably can't see how busy it is. They don't know how many employees there are. I mean, it's like they do actually, like the entitled people that are essentially clapping at us at any of the various jobs I've worked at. It's like, but you can actually see that we're getting our ass handed to you. Like blind people, it's like, well, they couldn't see that there were only 3 of you, and also that, you know, you were getting your ass handed to you. So, okay, that's great.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it, because the act of clapping, I think, is so insulting. But
yes,
you have to take that extra step and say, oh, they can only hear the ruckus.
Right. And that ruckus could be coming from 5 tables of clappers as opposed to 50 tables. You know what I mean? Like, God love.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, on that note, we're going to transition on to the good stuff. We hope you saved room for dessert. Okay. What is the nicest thing a customer has done for you whilst you were working?
Oh, boy.
And you're not name dropping if it happens to be a celebrity. It doesn't have to be, but it can be.
I mean, Roddy Piper was an old professional wrestler that, like, when I was a door guy and I was really tired at the end of the night, I was working the 2 jobs. I was interning at the time at my day job.
Cool.
And there was like 14-hour, 16-hour days. And I remember like the main room would close at like midnight, and I would just go and sleep in there, and Roddy Piper would like play the piano, and like if I didn't get up that night, he'd have me go up in the main room, and like I could perform, you know, tell jokes for him or whatever.
That is actually really, really lovely. That's actually a good, if you can't think of another customer this experience, that's fine, because that is a really lovely story of someone being aware of your biggest desire to perform.
Yeah.
That's really lovely. Okay. What's the best tip you've ever gotten?
Ooh. I mean, the consistent hundos from Rogan are nice.
Yeah, those are great. He's great.
I'm going to miss that.
Yeah.
Hopefully Austin doesn't work out and he has to move back, you know.
Fingers crossed.
No.
R.I.P. the Comedy Store. If not.
Seriously. I hope to not be back.
That's what a lot of people are doing. That's what's bumming me out is that, that's happening. I get it, but that's happening.
Yeah. No, that's like a consistent good tip. Yeah.
Who's the
best?
Who's the best customer you've ever interacted with, or one of the best that you can think of?
One of the best. Oh boy, dang it. Do you remember Dennis Kucinich?
The name is familiar, but I don't know why.
He's from Ohio. He ran for president back in like 2008.
Yeah,
I remember I had like an hour and a half long conversation with him about politics. He was like the mayor. He was like the mayor of Cincinnati too, I think.
Then I should really know him, because Cincinnati's the nearest city to me. That name, I was like, that name is super familiar. Jerry Springer's the only mayor I really remember.
Yeah, he was, I think, kind of one of the more prominent Democrats that were like anti-war the whole time back in 2004, you know, and kind of ran on that.
That's dope.
But I remember having a long conversation with him, because we wouldn't have, there would be nights where we'd just be dead. Like on a Wednesday, nobody's going to a hotel bar except for like hookers every once in a while, you know, and businessmen, which was always fun to like decide, you know, look out for. But I remember talking to him for a long time. He's running for president, and thinking like, he talked to me for too long.
Ooh.
You know, where like if you're a real good politician, you can kind of like cut it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, oh, he talked to me for an hour and a half. He'll never be president.
Turns out you were right. That's a good litmus test.
Dude is stand a chance. Yeah.
I'm jumping off of script for a second. Was there a specific tell with hookers that you, as the hotel, you had a policy? I shouldn't call them hookers, sex workers, where you had a policy that was, okay, when sex workers come, you just give them the key, show them the room, and pretend like nothing happened? Or was it, because I had a friend that worked at a hotel that had a no sex worker policy. So if it was obvious, they were told you are not welcome here. Whereas in most hotels, it's sort of a hush hush, the Beverly Hilton handles business for folks. Okay. So did your hotel have some sort of policy about it?
If they keep drinking, they're fine. That's the policy.
That feels real. Okay. What's the best lesson that you've learned having worked in customer service?
Ooh, general patience.
Okay.
Patience and understanding are the universal ones, hopefully.
Yeah, we get that a lot.
Yeah.
Okay. And
I also judge people based off of what they drink. There's things they'll always take with me, but
wait, give me an example of a drink and what the judgment is that goes along with it.
Well, the basic, if someone comes to you as a server, bartender, and doesn't know what they want, fucking, get out of our face, no waste of time.
Yes.
If they want something fruity but not too something strong but not too strong, they don't know what they want. But definitely martinis.
What does a martini mean?
If they're drinking it with gin, they're probably old. If they're drinking it with vodka, they're young. But I like gin martinis, and so it's. I find myself feeling older the more my drinking tastes kind of change.
Sure. I could see that. Yeah. Well, you burned it out working at the store in your 20s, so now you have just sophisticated taste because you have to. You can only drink so many Smirnoff ices before you're like, man, this is actual gasoline in a bottle.
Yeah. So you see the White Claw craze now. It's like, oh my God.
I have people swearing by that. And I'm like, please never let any bar I ever work at again, if I have to work at a bar again, ever carry that. Because I don't want that particular human in the bar.
Yeah.
And that's my statement. Sorry, friends, if you drink it. I have an opinion. Okay. And what's one piece of advice you would give to customers who interact with customer service workers?
Ooh. Just in general, be patient. I was really cognizant these last few months, not to overreact as far as when I'm in a car, because people everywhere seemed a little bit more on edge.
Yes.
And I everybody's kind of collectively losing our minds. So you don't know what kind of day someone's had. Be patient. And one move that I really make sure to do, and it's kind of creepy, I understand, but I always try to know my server's name.
That's not creepy at all. I genuinely appreciate that when people make that effort. It's a tell for me, because if I tell you, I don't have time at the store. If you ask me, I'll tell you, but I'm not like, hi, I'm Kate. We have blah, blah, blah. I can't do it. But if I did that, and I would do that when I was bartending, I made sure to say my name. And if people would say, excuse me, Kate, they got ahead of all the server tickets. They got ahead of everybody else at the bar that was doing that, hey shit to me, who also probably knew my name. If I got an excuse me, Kate, you were getting your drink right now. Yeah. So I don't think that's creepy.
My dad, he's a small town doctor, but he knows every patient's birthday.
Oh, bless him.
He's Rain Man like that. But I just try to remember. I always sometimes look at Facebook and see who has a birthday coming up, and if you can remind somebody of their birthday coming up before they do, they'll feel so special.
That's a fact. That's a really thoughtful, lovely little thing. Well, how can people get in touch with you, Lucas? Do you want to give out your socials or your website? And where can people see the viral Yelp review videos that I have been hearing about so much and seeing and thinking are hilarious?
Thank you for all your help with those, Kate. I really appreciate it.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Taking the time. I'm the same everywhere. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, at Lucas Hirl. Lucas is, Lucas, and then Hirl is Hirl. It's like girl with an H. Got made fun of growing up.
Fuck 'em.
Wayne's World 2 ruined my life.
Wait, why?
I remember the poster said, you'll laugh, you'll cry, you'll hurl.
Oh, my God. And would people
I got a pretty bad at school.
Well, it got you into comedy, so I guess the advantage is ours now.
Damn right.
Okay.
But yeah, find me anywhere.
And what inspired the Yelp? Because what Lucas does is he does these really hilarious Yelp reviews that are all video Yelp reviews of various events and things, and they're hilarious. What inspired that idea?
I went to Stephen Randolph and Chelsea Skidmore's wedding, and I got seated at one of the last tables. As far as the food, whoever, there's dinner, and we were the last table to get fed.
Sure.
I was pissed about it. And so I was seated with Steven's manager, and I was like, we're finally getting up to get in line and it was Italian, Italian food. And of course, we're the last table, so we have the longest walk, too. And in this longest walk, I say to his manager, Michael, I say, I want to Yelp this fucking wedding. It's like the lettuce will be wilted. And just thinking of like all these apocalyptic scenarios that because we were waiting like maybe 45 minutes, but I thought the idea of Yelping my friend's wedding as a wedding present to them would be a good one. And I gave it 2 stars, and it was doing really well on Facebook when I released it that day. And my friend whose wedding I Yelped, they were both in Italy on a boat, very offended by it. And they called me and told me to take it down, so I did.
I didn't know that. I wondered why I did not know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then they asked me, with a year later to put it back up. I'm like, fuck you.
Yeah.
And I did, but...
You did?
Well, no, it really started as a fun joke. And if I knew that I would make more of them, I think I would have kind of made fun of the wedding more, because there were things about it that Steve-O was there. In like a polka dot three-piece suit. And I didn't even make mention of that.
And that's hilarious. That's like a random... Yeah. That would have been an important detail.
Oh, yeah. No, but I intended it as kind of a stupid present for Chelsea and Steven. Just to you're reviewing something that will never happen again.
Sure.
Sure. And also I like the entitlement that people bring to real life Yelp reviews.
Facts.
I think there's something very funny about thinking that I can critique a whole Black Lives Matter movement or
which he did. He did. You should look up. It's very funny.
I like the balancing acts.
Yeah, it's great. Well,
I like that self-righteousness.
Yeah, they're great. So you need to find those on his YouTube page.
Please.
Folks, we're going to drop your checks now. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to help us out here at Service from Hell, leave us a 5-star review on iTunes and tell your friends to listen. It will help us reach more people that need to be schooled in the art of being kind and will be catharsis for those of us still working in the industry. If you want to get in touch with us here at Service from Hell, send us your receipts at servicefrumhellpodcast@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. Remember, if you can't afford to tip, you can't afford to go out. So don't be garbage and be good to people. It's easier that way. Thank you so much for being on. Lucas, I appreciate you. This was lovely. Thank you for all of your time. And yeah, folks, that's going to be a wrap. We'll see y'all later. Good night.